Mute out, will you? Make sure you're muted. And here we go. Let's rock and roll. Hey everyone, it's Frank Klesitz. Welcome to Keeping It Real. I want to let you know that a couple of housekeeping things before we get started today. You see the topic down below here on YouTube. But you're going to learn how to build the optimal economic structure for a team, or one way to do it that's fairly optimal for Antoine here in a minute. I want to let you know that you can check out all the past Keeping It Real episodes at keepingitreal.com. We've been doing these since about 2014, I believe, if you want to go back that far. And Antoine actually will bring you up here, man. Actually started watching them back in 2014 and attributes a lot of his success to watching this very show. So how cool is that?
Yeah.
So I want to let you know that you can actually go to Keeping It Real, go put your email address in and get notified for future shows that come up. We won't email you about anything else. You won't get any sales emails or pitch emails for anything. It'll only be about future shows, and you can always watch the replay. So if you're just joining us or you're halfway in, you can watch the replay right here. We're going live on this YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it. So with that, let's get into the show. We want to know the optimal structure for a team. I want to introduce Antoine to you. I'm here with my co-host, Greg Harrelson. We built a pretty profitable team, and you're going to share us how you did it. Say hi, Antoine.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Like Kevin or Frank mentioned, I am Anthwon Thomas, here, real estate agent here in Lafayette, Indiana, and I'm honored to be on the show. So yeah, fire away.
Cool. So let's start off with this question. Why don't we just get right to the point? Will you tell us the organizational structure, and then we'll get into the economic structure. But how is your current sales team structured right now in Indiana?
Great question. So we're currently constructed as myself. I'm not currently in production. That's a key point. I exited production about middle of last year. So we have 3 sales agents now. We got one that's onboarding, and he just pretty much started. So brand new agent. And I want to, I do want to say all 3 of my agents, my sales agents right now, have not been in the business longer than 3 years. So they're all fairly new. So I got 3 sales agents. I got a director of operations. I have a closing coordinator. We have a virtual assistant, and we have a showing assistant as well.
Let me get that straight. You have a closing coordinator, a virtual assistant, an operations manager, a showing assistant, and 3 sales agents.
3 sales.
I'm assuming
agents.
the sales
Correct.
agents do buyer and seller leads, buyer and deals.
Yes. Well, we got one, the new guy. He is only working buyers, and then we have 2 sales agents that are working both.
And what was your production? How many homes last year in the middle of the pandemic did you guys sell?
We did 120.
That's great. And about 5 years ago, you were just doing 2 to 3 deals a year, right?
Yeah, I was a young pup, solo dolo, doing 2 to 3 deals a year. Yeah.
So here's what I'd like to ask, just to kind of help everyone understand this. Will you explain to our viewers, how is your team optimized after years of trial and error for optimal profitability? Give us your thoughts. Just give us a lesson on that. And then we're going to take it back to where you were in 2015, what you learned along the way.
Okay. Well, in order for us to be as profitable as we are, with me not being in production, it first started with what was the outcome that I wanted to have. And instead of going too deep into how it started, you have to give value to people that you are leading in your organization. And by doing that, by giving them compensation in regards to leadership, vision, coaching, training, lead generation opportunities, the brand name, accountability, and support, we offer that as another form of what people call commission, right? So we offer several forms of commission, and those are some of those other forms. So we are very focused on building a culture and providing as much possible to the people within our organization so they can focus on the money-making activities. And that helps us to be profitable, sustainable, and we can also scale as well.
Just so we can kind of know, you're in Indiana, what's the average or the median home sales price where you sell?
200,000.
200,000?
Yep.
Got it.
So as you can tell, there's not many mistakes that I can make.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have, my margins they're pretty tight. So that's what makes the kind of what we do, it all click, is the fact that by giving this much value, we can still be profitable no matter where you're at. You can still be profitable in any market.
Yeah, because that puts there's no like typical commission, then it probably puts a commission on the side about $6,000.
Yep.
So you have to split that with the agent and all your
Yep.
expenses, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, you said you have some support staff. What percentage of your gross commission that comes in total from all your home sales goes to your support staff? And how do you come up
About
with the compensation for them?
well, support staff out of about 14% will go to support staff, and with still room to grow. Our lead gen, we're probably only pushing about 5 to 6% of our revenue to that. So we're, as you could tell, we're prospecting based and marketing enhanced. So we're able to, again, be more profitable. And we're real heavy on the staff side. And I want to continue to be that way because I think it's very important that we keep our agents focused on prospecting, lead follow-up, appointments, and negotiations.
You know, that's something I like to dive in with you and Greg. I want to talk about that right now.
Okay.
So you're fairly profitable, as you guys can see in the write-up, about 40% to the bottom line. 120 deals a year, 3 agents, small support team. Support teams, 14% of revenue goes to pay their salaries. But what's really key here is it's not so much what the split is or what you're paying on support staff. It's that you have 3 productive agents that are working for you and giving a piece of commission to your team,
Yep.
and not in return for a lot of marketing support if it's only 5 to 6% of your marketing budget.
Hmm.
Is that correct? Because
Well,
I've seen teams spend 20, 30% on marketing.
yeah, and the reason why and I don't want to disrespect anybody. I think most people that spend a lot of money on marketing is because they're marketing based. So we're prospecting based. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get a phone line, a phone book, to hit the doors. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's more your sweat equity. And we do internet leads, we do, social media stuff, we do branding, we do all the stuff, but we're able to, just based on what we have done, 120 deals by having a marketing budget of, like this year, it'll be around 53,000. So it's, you don't really have to spend that much money to sell a lot of homes and to be profitable, if that
I'm
makes
posting a
sense.
link for everyone. I want to go deeper on this, especially with you, Greg.
Mhm.
Is I'm posting a link in the chat to the minimum agent standards.
Mm.
Okay. And if I could do a screen share here appropriately for the Keeping It Real show, let me pull this up correctly and not lose what I'm doing. I want to actually put it up on the screen. And I'd like you to go through and share the minimum standards for the 3 people on your team with us. And
Okay.
let me size my screen correctly so it's not too small. All right, we're ready to do a screen share. Here we go. Go through this. You have 3 agents.
Yep.
This is what they're required to do every day.
Yep.
Explain this to us and tell us why.
Okay, so these are our minimum standards. In order to maintain an efficient, productive work environment, we have implemented the following standards. So as you can see, minimum of 25 contacts a day. And if you are really, we push for higher than 25. We just say a minimum of 25. I think one of the rule of thumbs is the amount of contacts that you make per day will be the amount of closings that you have per year. So we want our minimum closings per agent to be 24 deals a year. So that's why we made the minimum 25 contacts a day. Now, everybody, I will say everybody's goals on our team requires much higher contacts than that. So generally we're going to be in the 30s and 40s per day, but that is the minimum. Each month, the agent will gain a minimum of 2 closed transactions. So again, we want 2 closed transactions a month, attend all team meetings. They will be allowed to grace days starting. Now, what we do is we have what we call like an office fee, $4.95.
Interesting.
This is a way to hold the agents accountable without having to be a micromanager. Okay. If they don't close 2 deals the following month, they got to pay $4.95 from either the commission check or write a check to the company. And it's waived if they close 2 transactions the month prior. And again, that's a way for agents to just be held accountable and not be micromanaged. And then we have, like I mentioned before, we pay for internet leads. whether it's Facebook. We don't pay Zillow, but we do get Zillow leads. We get Google leads. So we are dispersing those out every single day. So if they don't follow these standards, then they get removed from that. And then as you can see, if it keeps happening, they have a sit down meeting with me.
How do you enforce this?
Well, number one, it starts at hiring. Being very clear on the type of agent that we want, being very clear and upfront with agents. We are very extensive in our hiring process. A lot of times when we bring agents on to the team, we future pace them. We let them know what it's going to be, what's going to happen. So, and we have one-on-one meetings. We have opportunities for one-on-one coaching meetings for me to remind them. We have team meetings each week where we talk about this. And the most important thing is everybody within our team, all the agents prospecting every single day, they hold each other accountable. If somebody only hit 10 contacts, then the next agent who hit 30 the day before, they're going to say, hey, brother, why didn't you hit your 25 or your 30? Or one thing I'm very good at and the team is good at this as well, is setting up some type of accountability between each other. For example, just about 3 weeks ago, I had the agents were supposed to hit 40 contacts a day. And if they don't, the following day, they come in and do 40 push-ups. I could promise you, everybody was hitting 40. Well, there's a couple of people who had to get some push-ups in, but hey, they after the push-ups, they were swole, the muscles were big, and then they were pumped up to get on the phone. So have a little fun with it, but generally they keep each other accountable as well. And if not, then I step in and make sure I remind them on what their goals are, and we do business planning. So there are several different ways that we do to try to keep them moving forward.
It sounds like that sheet's the secret sauce.
It is. And more importantly, we review it often. We don't just have it there and then not look at it for 12 months. I mean, we're constantly looking at it. We're constantly giving core value shout outs.
When you say who's doing that? Is that you?
It's myself and my director of operations.
How often?
Each week.
Weekly meetings?
Yep.
Greg, when an agent comes onto your team, into your brokerage, what are their minimum standards? Are there similarities, differences?
Yeah, very similar. I don't have a minimum standard as a company rule. What I'm doing is I'm understanding what the individual agent's looking to accomplish, and then I kind of guide them based on what their goals are. So somebody might have a goal of doing 100 transactions. Somebody might have a goal of doing 35 transactions. Both of those goals to me are equally just as good, as long as it's what they are looking to accomplish. So my job is to help them accomplish what they want to do. And so I'm going to set it, instead of setting a minimum standard across the board, I'm going to coach them and say, this is what has to be done in order to achieve this goal. And then at that point, it becomes their standard. So mine's going to fluctuate based on their goals, because I'm going to have people that are just not going to need to do the same amount as another person. And I'm not trying to get everybody to reach my goal. I'm trying to get everyone to reach their goal.
Yeah. And to piggyback off Greg, we do the same. So our one-on-one meetings, I am constantly reminding them of what the goal they set for themselves back in October.
Yeah.
And they're being coached on, this is what you have to do, a goal that you chose. This is what you need to do to get there. This is your roadmap. Are we doing it? No, we're not. So let's talk about why. Matter of fact, why don't we talk about why you even chose this number to begin with, this income goal, and we break it down. So they're constantly being reminded in every way possible, goal and then standards of the team as well. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go back now, because I wanted to share that accountability statement with everyone for your 3 agents and what you're having them do every day with the weekly meetings to hold them accountable. I want to go back down to a little back to the economic structure to deliver on the promise of this. You said you have an operations manager, a closing coordinator, a VA, and a showing assistant. What exactly are their roles? What does your operations manager do? Are they doing listings, like taking the listing? Like what's your operations person doing? And then what's the comp range for that person? What's your closing coordinator do? I think everyone understands that. What's the comp range? And share what your VA does, comp range. What would you say economically someone should structure that as?
Okay, so My director of operations has been with me for 4 years. So she's been with me from pretty much day one of starting the company and has helped me grow this to where it is now. So
So
she
she was your
started
very first
initially as an
assistant.
admin.
Yep.
Yeah, she started off as an admin. So a lot of the systems and processes that we have, she built those out with, it was more, this is what I think would work for us. 10% I'm involved. She'll take it the next, 80.
You found yourself
Then
a
she'll
lucky hire, didn't you?
Yeah, I tell her all the time, I was like, yeah, I mean, I think we're both lucky that we found each other like this because she's been there since day one.
So I'm assuming she was doing everything, and then eventually you was the next hire after that.
The next hire after that was a buyer's agent. It was a buyer's agent.
Okay. Next hire after that.
It was, I believe at that point we hired the closing coordinator.
In-house or
after that.
Outsourced or?
Well, she's outsourced. She's with the brokerage that we're at, so we pay her per transaction.
Per transaction, nice.
Yep.
Is that still profitable for you doing 100 deals?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Greg, what are your thoughts on that, on transaction coordinator, when you maybe take them off like per transaction and bring them on salary or bring them hourly? Any thoughts on when you make that switch?
Well, so the real cost in the in hiring a transaction coordinator, if you have your own transaction coordinator on your staff, on your hourly or salary, the perception is that you're going to, maybe you get to a point where you can actually drive your costs down. But the challenge is that position, somebody has to really pay attention to that position. So there's going to be cost in managing of that position. And when you put them on your salary and you bring them in-house, you're going to have to hire another person just to make sure that they're doing their job right, or you're going to have to do it. And then there's where it eats up into your costs. So it's not just, oh man, I'm doing so many transactions now, I could just bring my own in. Yeah, go ahead. And now you're gonna have to train that person. Training a closing coordinator to do the job effectively, it takes at least a year. And so who's going to do it? The agent? That 1 year that they actually spend on training that person, that's going to cost them the 3 years of their projected profit. It'll take them 3 years to make up that.
So that's pretty insightful. So you like the idea of paying per transaction closed?
Well, I'm talking about an individual agent.
Yeah.
As an individual agent, I think that's wiser. I think it's wiser. So the hierarchy would be what Antoine's saying is, I just love what he's saying, because he said the first one was an assistant. I think the first team member needs to be an assistant. Second team member, he said buyer's agent. Great. That's very logical. Now, I might have depended on, and that probably made a lot of sense for his number of transactions. To me, I would tell somebody assistant. Now, hire that assistant first. And then what the value in the assistant is the savings of time. You get an assistant, you save 4 hours a day on time that you don't have to do that stuff anymore. Then you invest 2 hours of the 4, 50% of the time you save, you must invest into income generating activities. And then when you invest that in income generating activities, the profit you make out of those 2 hours is the ROI off of hiring the assistant, nothing else. That's how you logic your way into the hiring an assistant. And financially, that's how you logic your way into it, okay? So from there, it just depends, where are you going to start allocating your time? Now, Antoine's kind of worked himself out of production. So what he did is he says, okay, now I'm freeing up my time with this assistant. Well, he reinvested his time into actually really building an organization for himself. So naturally, then going after a buyer's agent might be natural. Now, when I first did it, I hired an assistant. I went and did more lead generation to get more listings, got so many dang listings, I had to hire a listing coordinator. Okay. And then I had so many pendings, I hired a closing coordinator. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, what about all these buyers? Then I hired a buyer's agent. But the difference here is I freed up my time, went and got more listings. He freed up his time, started building an organization. Both of us probably did it right based on our vision of the model.
Yeah. Can I ask something in there?
Yeah,
Greg just sparked something. So Greg makes a great point, because when I got into real estate, I learned very quickly that most agents were treating real estate as a job, when I knew I wanted to treat it as a business. So I had clear intentions coming into the business, what my outcome was going to be. I wasn't sure when it was going to happen, but I knew for a fact I enjoyed serving people, helping people. And I had for some odd reason, I knew I would enjoy building a business. I always was curious when I was younger, like, how did these companies become what they are? Right? I was always intrigued with that. So I had clear intentions coming in. So what I did was I knew that financially for me, for my personal spending, I had to live way below my means because I was going to have to sacrifice my time prospecting to help build out systems and processes and increase the value I could give to people. That way I could attract people and retain people. So I sacrificed about about 4.5 years of just making sure I'm living well below my means so then I can reinvest. And then what happened is once you start getting to a certain point and you got your economic structure the way it is, you now realize, well, economically now I can regress. I can back out as far as my personal production. So that's a great point that Greg made, and it kind of sparked something in me right there. And I learned that from Greg. Like I learned that from Greg and some other people that from, like you mentioned, 2015, man, I was soaking up game every day from Greg and you guys, and hundreds of episodes every single day. And I have a very obsessive attitude. I don't know if it's a problem, but I get very, you can ask my wife. She's like, babe, you were listening to another podcast? Like she knows, I mean, it's incredible.
Antoine, I want to ask you this question. So in order to build a team, in order to have this economic structure, you had to take the risk. That's something Absolutely. I think in the way of saying this is that the team leader, the CEO, the person starting the business takes the risk that the agent otherwise doesn't want to take. And that risk is who's going to write the check for lead gen? Who's going to buy the phone numbers? Who's going to pay for the dialer? Who's going to buy the CRM? Who's going to take the risk of paying the staff? And you did that with not much money at a $200,000 home sales price, doing 2 to 3 deals a month, right?
Yep.
I'm just curious if you can share with the audience, and probably the discussion you had with your wife, if you were married at that time, how did you emotionally cut back your living expenses to plow the commissions you were earning back into risking it on setting up all of these systems and staff?
That's a great question, Frank. Well, naturally, I'm a very thrifty man. Give me a cardboard box, I'm good. Right? Like I can live off, I'm very minimal in what I need in my life. Now, during the time I was building a business, I was also building a family. So as I'm closing more deals, we're having more kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like we having more kids while
so you're cutting back as you're having kids.
Exactly. So
that doesn't usually work that way, Antoine.
I know. So I would say this is a great time to shout out my wife. She has been very supportive in understanding. Number one, I had a plan and I presented it to her just like I presented to everybody within the company. I have a vision and I got her to buy into it. So she understood. So those trips that we could have taken, or that house we could have bought, we knew that the end game was we were able to do that at some point, and she bought into that. So I had support from her. Now we're able to do some of that stuff. And so we're in a different position, but it was just her buying in and me having a vision, having a plan, and being able to articulate it to her that way.
Less questions on this, but then I want to get back into the
I want to mention something too after that question on this real quick.
What was the scariest expense? Deals maybe not going through, you're living commission to commission. Go back to those times. And you sat down with your wife or you had to write a check. It was the scariest check that you wrote of the risk that you took your capital on. What was it?
Whew.
Go back to those days.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had support from people who were already doing it at high levels. I knew that in order for me to be great or to do something that is not average, I had to take the risk. I knew that whether I was going to fail or succeed, it's still a win for me, because if I fail, I'm going to learn. And because I got a prospecting mindset, I listen to the people like Greg as a mentor. I know that if I write a check and I don't get it back or something goes wrong, I can work my way out of a problem. I can make a loss into a win. I was also blessed to have a wife that had a great job. She's in the health industry. And we were thrifty before getting into real estate because we had to be. We didn't have as much resources, right? So we were living well below our means anyways. That was really the way it happened. I knew that this is the way I have to do it, because if I'm going to be conservative or take the average route, I'm going to get average results. And
So
I
the
knew
con-
that I knew
Go
to
ahead.
win, I had to be focused and I had to have belief, and that I'm a winner, period. And I'm a competitor.
Here's what I want to say to that. Then Greg, you ask your question. Your confidence to write that check and take the risk was your confidence in your self-esteem that you could prospect and replace the lost money.
Because I was already prospecting.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait. I didn't have a roller coaster of a business because I had months where I had 12 closings. I had, like there were things happening to where I knew I could always generate. That was never going to go away from me. And I had skill set too. Going back to listening to 100 podcasts of Greg Harrelson and Frank, when Greg would do role plays, you have no idea how many times I recorded his role play. And I would listening to him, I would write down what he said and make it my own and then use it and set an appointment. I'm a seeker of knowledge and I'm a winner. And I knew that from day one. One thing about me is even before I sold a single house, I knew I was a bad boy. And so just having that confidence, the way I was raised, is what helped me get to where I'm at right now and taking the risk.
Yeah, Frank. So Frank, one of the things it's an observation, and I want to make something or share something with the audience for a moment. So, if you're watching this and you're listening to Antoine, you're likely to come to form some sort of opinion that Antoine's probably not going to be that guy that just takes high risk. He's probably not a high risk investor, probably doesn't make a lot of high risk, do things that take on a lot of high risk. But Frank asked him about risk. And I typed in my notes here. One of the things that I heard and I gather is that Antoine minimized his risk by maximizing his learning. He minimized his risk by maximizing his learning. So, for those who are out there that are thinking about making some sort of move, you got to understand this guy is probably not the guy that makes a lot of bold moves a lot of time. He's probably extremely calculated in whatever he purchases and whatever he does. He's just calculated like that. And so for him to make this bold move, what he did is he maximized learning. He says, I'm a little obsessed, right? He says he's obsessed over it. Well, naturally, as a personality style, he might have the tendency to seek external validation and external information prior to him jumping and making decisions. But I think there's a lot for us to learn. Like sometimes if you feel like something's at a higher risk, that's an internal dialogue where what you're really feeling is maybe you need to go learn a little bit more about what you're thinking of doing. It doesn't mean you should or you shouldn't do it. It just means maybe you need to learn a little bit more so you can minimize your perceived risk. Yes. And then you talk about your wife and how blessed you are about your wife. You got to understand, your wife might believe in you. Okay, maybe she does. I'm assuming she does. But you got to understand, she witnessed you learning. So she was sitting and listening to you. Oh, I'm going to do this and I might do this. And as some spouses can be a little bit like that can make them uncertain and a little uncomfortable. But you brought the comfort and the certainty because you were showing how you were committed to actually learning this thing and you were calculated. So you actually reduced the risk for your entire family. So I just wanted to kind of share that observation with people because there's other people listening that are thinking about, gosh, should I do this? Should I take this risk? And minimize the risk by maximizing your learning.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing. Learning a lot. I also learned from you, Greg, is that you have to take action. It's one thing to learn everything, but if you're not taking action so The name of the game is not how intelligent you are, it's how often you are intelligent. And I knew from learning from you, the intelligent thing to do is to prospect. It doesn't even matter if I know a script or not. I need to at least talk to people. I learned and did the action. You see what I'm saying? I learned a script from Greg and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it tomorrow. It's 8:00 at night, so I can't call tonight. But I guarantee you in the morning, I'm gonna make this call. Okay. And then that was what I did. So by doing that, being smart in my spending, my own personal habits, having no debt or minimal debt, and then investing wisely. And Greg has me to a T. I don't make high risk investments. I am very calculated. I do have a 1 and 3 year goal or plan of where the company is going. I have it all detailed down. I have Excel spreadsheets. I've learned to be analytical and know the data. So it's all that combined, and then just having this crazy fire within me, seeing a guy like Greg, seeing a guy like some of my other mentors out there winning at a high level, knowing that, hold up, this is a man just like me. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And then just having that belief and being focused.
I liked how he shared that, because you can't build a team without taking risk. And I wanted to ask that question of how you did that to get to this point, and learning more about you through this interview. It shows you your team is like down to a spreadsheet of exactly where the money is and how it all goes, isn't it? I know it is. You're proud of that spreadsheet, aren't you, Antoine?
I can literally screen share and show you what it looks like. Like, I mean,
Sure.
I'm not playing.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to the original question before we went down that path, which is good. I wanted to go there. Your assistant grew to operations manager, buyer's agent. You have you pay per file for closing assistance through your broker, which is nice. They provide that, and probably provide the supervision and management, right?
Yes.
You said you brought on a VA. This is someone probably foreign. What do they do?
Oh man, they do a lot of the button clicking, I would say. It
VA,
actually,
by the way, means virtual assistant.
virtual assistant.
Yeah.
So we use all of our systems that we use. They all talk to each other, and it requires a lot of button clicking. And my director of operations, she's now graduated into being more of a leader and managing the closing coordinator in the VA, and then also helping with some trainings and stuff here and there on the systems. So the VA's main focus now is, once a file goes under contract, this button needs to be clicked. And we use Trello. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Trello. We use Trello for all of our transactions. So moving files over, inspection, negotiation time, appraisal, helping sending out this email to the client for client care aspect of the transaction. I mean, they're doing a little bit of everything. We got them, I mean, it's pretty much 40 hours a week that they're moving stuff around and freeing up time for everybody else.
It sounds like they're doing a lot of quality assurance to process 120 deals with one coordinator.
Yes, and it allowed our closing coordinator to focus real heavy on client care, the client care aspect, calling the client, making sure that we're delivering on the promise that we set forth for them, and providing what we call a Ritz-Carlton experience. It just frees up everybody's time. I'm very big on providing the best experience for the client possible, because speaking of Silver Lining Real Estate Group, not to get off topic, but Silver Lining, the reason why we're called Silver Lining Real Estate Group is because when I got into real estate, I realized that we were in a broken industry. There were a lot of agents that weren't providing high level service. There were a lot of clients that I worked with that came from another agent and was unhappy with the service. So they chose me based on maybe my energy, or maybe they got a referral. It was a referral from somebody they know, right? So as we're growing this company, I knew that I had to keep that aspect going of giving the best service possible. So that's why we also built out the support staff and everything the way it did. And we wanted to be the silver lining in a broken industry. So we named the company Silver Lining Real Estate Group, because we want to be the silver lining.
Thanks for sharing.
So it's all a purpose. It's all for a cause.
Then you said you have a showing assistant.
Showing assistant.
Tell me about that conversation. I assuming you're meeting with your team and you're talking about the value of time, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us how that conversation went down, how you made that hire.
Okay. So I'm very big on right people in the right seats. If Again, we're very prospecting based. If you're an agent, you are focused on doing these 4 activities. If you are in support, you are focused on doing these activities. So once we see someone who maybe naturally has a talent where I can put them somewhere else, we have a conversation about it and we say, hey, why don't you try this position? Because now being a showing assistant, you are now a personal concierge for the client, meaning you're always available to show property, and it frees up the agent time to prospect more, to generate more. And your personality, your mindset, you are very charismatic. That position requires high energy. It requires a structure of showing a home the right way. This person was great for that. So we decided to move him into the showing assistant role because we knew the ROI after about 6 months, we will see a high ROI. And we did.
What are your thoughts on showing assistants, Greg?
Yeah, I think it's excellent. I believe in division of labor and division of tasks. So I'm a big proponent of that, right? And so I think it's a wise way to do it. I mean, you have to be committed. Again, it's a model. It's a model that works if you're really committed to working it out. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that it works very well. And then there's plenty of great companies and models that don't use. We do not use showing assistants. Our agents are doing that. Now, in the end, from a model, let's just assume that you got one model that does it, one model that doesn't. Then that means there's more task for the agent that has to do that role, which is showing property. And so they're typically going to make a little bit better commission because there's one less person that gets a cut. Then you add a showing assistant. Now all of a sudden there's an additional person that has to get a cut out of the transaction. So usually what you'll see is the agent then gets a little bit lower commission because they have to do fewer duties, and then someone else has to do different duties. And so they get a little bit of that commission, or they get a little bit of that number. So again, it all comes down to the economics are going to work well. I would say showing assistants you can hold showing assistants to a higher level of accountability than you can hold agents to. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's become so popular. It's becoming harder and harder to hold agents accountable.
Insightful. Thanks, Greg. Mm-hmm. Let's recap. And then I'm going to go back and kind of get your story of learn the why behind all this. That'll be the rest of the interview. All right.
Okay.
3 sales agents, 120 deals a year. How many deals do you personally do, Antoine?
0.
So you're totally out?
Yep.
Good for you, man. Operations manager, who was your first hire? What's her name?
Amanda Chase.
Amanda. So Amanda was your key hire, and she's been with you since you started. Hi, Amanda.
She's watching.
Amanda helped hire all the support staff around you, the closing coordinators overseeing all that, the VA to help police everything, tie it all together. Probably taking care of handling all the showings as well, with the showing assistant overseeing all that.
Helping hold me accountable too.
And hold you accountable too, which allows your 3 sales agents underneath you, because you're probably their sales manager, leader, coach, guide, to hit their goals, to hold to those minimum standards that I brought here, that I showed on the meeting today. And the link again is in the chat for anybody who wants it. I post that in the chat on YouTube if you guys want to actually see the document. And you're holding them very accountable to speak to 25 people a day.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're holding them accountable to their goal, but the minimum is the 25. Yeah, they're being pushed to.
So you got to have a goal.
They're not being pushed. They're being reminded of what their goal is every single day. Every single day.
So here's what I want to get now. I want to dive back into where some learning can take place. So this taking at face value is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And you're like, okay, that was a nice interview, guys. Thanks. The reality is there's like 5 years of blood, sweat, pain, and suffering that led up to this realization, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So what I'd like to do is go back to 2015 when you're doing 2 to 3 deals, and tell us some of the mistakes or some of the challenges, maybe the hiring mistakes or positions, organizational structure, different models you've tried that collapsed on you, so others can avoid the same pain and really understand some of the beauty of what you just shared with us.
Okay. Well, the pain came from watching podcasts, there's only so much you can get from a podcast. At some point, you got to actually connect with someone who's doing it at a high level. On a podcast, you're going to get a lot of surface level information, just to be honest. I made a connection with Greg, and just from being around him the first time I met him, I learned a lot. But it wasn't even about like economics or prospecting, because I've already listened to hundreds of hours of that, how he carried himself as a leader. The pain for me was I wasn't a good leader at first. Even though I sold homes, I didn't lead correctly. So people didn't want to, for example, my first agent that I brought on didn't stay with us long. The agent wasn't there for that long, maybe about 4 months, and then gone. It's because I wasn't being a leader. But after I learned and how to carry myself and how to really apply and implement and then put the work in at the same time, that was my pain points, because I had to become a better leader. Now, all the other stuff, I made sure that I invested in some form of coaching or mentorship. I was very curious and trying to do things the right way from the beginning. So a lot of that helped, but the pain points was being a bad leader in the beginning. Just wasn't the best leader.
Give us a couple examples of bad leadership that you're like, man, I can't believe I did that knowing what I know now. Or maybe I thought a certain way or had a behavior or attitude a certain way.
Hey, one of the first ones is you have to walk the talk. Meaning, if we talk about being a prospecting-based business, and I'm asking you to come in, and it's a room with just me and you in the room, because we're just starting out, and I'm saying, go ahead and prospect. I'm gonna be over here working on the system, and I'm not prospecting, but I'm working on the system. After a while, they're gonna see that they're just telling me to do something. I don't believe in this. I can do this on my own, and they're gone. At the same time, what value am I really giving that person? A couple numbers to call, right? That's what I mean by the lack of leadership. I wasn't actually on the phones with them at some point with that first agent. I've done it prior to that for a couple of years, and it built me up to where I could bring on an agent and give them leads. But I wasn't at that point. It was, I got to build out these systems. Me and Amanda, we got to build these systems out. So that agent, they gone just like that. So that's what I mean by the lack of leadership. I needed to prove myself a little more. I needed to make sure that I was gliding every day. I'm not going to say grind. I was in the glide every day. I was hitting the phones, and I was leading by example. The leaders lead in the front, not the back. And then when I started doing that, I put another 2 to 3 years in with people following my lead. I proved myself. I gave more value. I added more support. And then at that point, it started taking off. But that was the pain point. So it was tough at first, because you get attached to that person, and when they leave you, your first one, it's almost like a breakup. It's tough.
That's good. I remember going out to Greg's office years ago, Greg, when I came out, and he has this whole floor of all these desks where everyone's making calls.
Yeah.
And, I'd figure Greg's off in his office, just hanging out while everyone's working. And that was certainly not the case. He was in a suit and tie, and his desk was in the dead center of the room. And hand to God, he was speaking louder than everyone else in the room, which I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're speaking really loudly in this room when everyone's calling. And I remember I asked him, he was like, I want them all to hear what I'm saying and hear the intense conversations that I'm having to lead and inspire them, standing right in the middle. And that was you, Greg. Still is.
Yeah. I'm a big believer of leading by example. And I've just been very committed to that. And I still today don't have a physical office. Like if somebody's if I've got to meet somebody, I tell them, okay, meet me at this office, and then I meet in the conference room. I today do not have an office. I've been very committed to that. I want to be with agents.
Yes.
I want to go back. These are good questions. I like the You had to grow as a leader, and what motivated you to do that, the pain point. The title of this interview is The Optimal Structure for a Small Team. Did you try other structures that didn't work? Other arrangements, other models that you're like, nope, burn it down. We got to go this direction.
I did. So I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I did follow a coaching company structure at some point. I was real big into coaching, and there were several different models I could have
There's a gazillion.
There's a yeah. The ones I chose were the ones I chose. I really believed in them, and I've learned a lot. But the one that I tried to structure my team around, that type of economic structure, it didn't. I quickly found out that if I do it this way, without having to depend on lenders helping cover cost, or without having to depend on, or the market being, changing, like I wanted to have a bulletproof business. So that type of structure would not work long term.
It sounds like you were very marketing based and you had to go back to prospecting. Is that right?
Yeah, and we were paying out too much, way too much, for just way too much in commissions. We were paying out way too much. So we had to get control over that. So I had to revise everything. I had to sit down and I had to make sure I got the right information. And I took
How did you find that? How did you, through all the podcasts and all the information out there, how did you evaluate what's the right information for you? Again, in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
At a $200,000 price point. You always got to kind of keep that in mind.
So it was, once you get some, really for me, it was just a spreadsheet. When I was able to play with numbers and see year 1, year 3, year 10, will this sustain any market on where I'm currently at right now, how much I'm spending, how much I'm paying out. If the market was a shift today, could I still make it through? I'd plug numbers into a spreadsheet or into just that simple. I just didn't know what I didn't know economically. As far as a business owner, I didn't know what my economic structure should really look like if I ever wanted to exit production or not be heavily reliant on my production. Because that wasn't the plan. The plan getting into the business, I knew my outcome. My outcome was to grow a business and to at one point step out of production and just focus all my time into pouring into the people within my organization, help them live better, healthier, happier, profitable lives.
Now, some people will say,
selling homes.
Some people will say that that's a risky business with 3 people underneath you where all your income is based on. What do you say to that?
Well, the reality is if I need to sell a home today, I can. And that's not to aggrandize myself. It's just, I am very confident that, listen, like Greg has said this before, I role play. I'm in there in the training center with them every day, role playing every single day. I can easily hop on. I can put my headset on and get on Mojo or call on a FSBO right now and set an appointment. So if that ever was to happen, I could step back in production if need be. However, I am very clear that in order for me to build this out to where we have a strong bench of great players, I need to find more talent and bring more talent in so we can serve them and help them hit their goals. So recruiting.
A whole other show can be dedicated to answering that question. I'm not going to go down that path, but we certainly could. I want to go back to the economic structure for a team. Leadership, finding the right model, which is this one of all the different models that are out there. Give me another large lesson you learned building this team from an economic structure, from an organizational structure, of a wrong path you went down, or an attitude or a behavior or a hire or a pay or something that you learned something from to end up with what you share with us in the first 30 minutes. Anything else you can think of?
It's always leadership other than the economic, finding that out. And luckily for me, I found that out before I brought a lot of people in. So I found it out fairly quickly that, hold up now, let me remove my production. What does it look like without me selling homes? Okay, this isn't going to work. Leadership, again, it goes back to leadership. You see how I talk, the energy, the passion, I'm all about it. People want to follow someone like that, who's confident, who knows what they're doing, who is, hey, I'm going to follow that guy, right? when I first got into the reality is when I first got into this business and wanting to be I wanted to be who I am right now 5 years ago, but I wasn't ready yet. I didn't have the stuff I needed to offer to people for them to look at me and say, I'm gonna follow that guy. I believe in his vision and I could see my vision fitting into that vision. I didn't have none of that to offer. So it's just strictly growing and continuing to be a seeker of knowledge and applying consistently. And then having accountability for me in my life. Who holds me accountable, right? Greg for years held me accountable without knowing it. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like every podcast or whatever conversation we would have, he was talking to me. My wife, I had accountability at home. At one point, I would have my son write out that he wanted to go to Disney World. And each day I got home, he would ask, Dad, did you follow or execute on your obligations today? And if I said no, which I never did, but he would ask me that question, and I'm not going to say no because I know I'm going to do what I got to do. That's a form of accountability. And then I gave Amanda, who's my director of operations, authority to hold me accountable, to make sure I'm doing what I got to do. Then being involved with other high-level thinkers and having masterminds and stuff like that. Very simple.
So there's a couple of key values I want to go through here that I wrote down that I picked up about you. And then I'm going to go over again to answer the question of the optimal structure for your small team that you found. Again, this is going to be at a $200,000 median price point. 3 sales agents with minimum standards, that they are around you, they're led by you, you're making calls with them, you're totally out of production. But if you do your own production, that's a commission you pay yourself, and the rest flows to the bottom line, just like every other agent. So when you put 40% net, that does not include any of your personal production. Is that correct?
100%. Yep.
That's key, right? So you can see the true getting paid for what you own versus what you do.
Absolutely.
Like that. All right. So 3 sales agents, minimum standards. Operations manager was your first hire. Closing coordination, pay per closing through your broker. You have a VA holding everything together. And then you have a showing assistant, and that's it.
Yes.
Correct?
Can I add in there if we needed to hire? So we're gearing up for more support hires.
If there was your next hire, what would that be?
My next hire is going to be a success coach.
See, that's interesting. A lot of people would say an ISA.
We are the ISA.
Greg, you like that, don't you?
Yep.
So the reason why a success coach, with me, I want to focus on, again, the way we have the team structured. We have everything split up. I want to be able to focus on coaching, training, high-level conversations about where are we going as a company. A success coach is going to be able to help with the one-on-ones, to be able to be in the mix more often with the agents and making sure that, kind of like a managing broker as well.
You're gonna hire him full time?
Those type of questions. Well, at first, because we're gonna hire him within the company. They're already within the company.
Got it.
I ain't gonna say the name, but we're already within the company.
Someone's getting promoted.
So the goal is to be able to do that, bring them into part-time, and then gradually bring them on full-time, and then bring on a closing coordinator in-house. Now, here's the key. We have enough, as the revenue was increasing, I was stashing more money away in our emergency account because I knew what was going to happen. I knew we're going to just start blowing up and everything's going well. So I can make these hires today if I needed to. The key is to make sure that I'm always liquid and I have at least 6 months saved up. So then if I'm going to make the success manager hire today, and their salary is going to be, we'll say $50,000. I need to have an additional $50,000 saved. Then I make the hire. So I'm very conservative, like Greg mentioned.
You're very measured.
Very measured.
And I mean that like literally probably on your spreadsheet, right?
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
Here's some of the values I took away. You have an incredible ability and motivation to learn by consuming all of the thousands of hours it sounds like, of material that's online on how to sell real estate.
Yep.
And you've boiled it down to this today. That's the takeaway anyone should be watching from this. He boiled it down to what he shared today of his economic structure, how his team works.
Yep.
You're very prospecting based, and that brings you lots of certainty if you make a wrong decision, doesn't it?
Yep.
You also have your spreadsheet. It was interesting how you had to fix find the right model for you. You got really good Excel of analyzing what everyone's telling you to kind of separate what's right and what's wrong for you.
Yes.
All right. Coming to your wife with a plan for lower risk, very measured, and living below your means. That's how you build a team.
And providing great service to our clients, which gives us more referrals, which actually decreases our overhead.
Yeah. Great. What questions do you have for him? What else? Then we'll take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, I it's just more of an observation than it is question. I think you did a good job asking some questions, but one of the things that I hope the audience understands is the authenticity that you just listened to. One thing I can appreciate is the amount of authenticity that he has demonstrated today. Like I believe I believe if we went to his office, we would see no discrepancy between what he represented and what we would see. And I also just want to just remind everybody that everything you need, you have available to you. Antoine was not the resource. Antoine was resourceful. And that put him in the position that he's in right now. And it's going to take him to even higher levels. So those are the things that I just wanted to share as an observation to the audience. It's not about being the resource. It's about being resourceful. He went to podcasts, he connected, he went to events. We saw each other at an event one time and you connected with me, and that was being resourceful.
Antoine, we have a viewer here by the name of Sierra. And looks like I'm going to read what she said here, but this is you speaking to yourself 6 years ago, watching it, keeping it real. Are you ready?
Yes.
She says, I've been wanting to start a team for a while, but I've only since 2000, September 19th. So as of 2019 September, she's only closed 45 deals. Mm-hmm. How do you know if I should start a team or should I stay solo? I see more potential for growing with a team, but at what point are you ready to be a team leader?
I would first ask her, why does she want to be a team leader? Because being a team leader or starting a team, it's not, you learn quickly that in the beginning, you're selling homes. You have to, again, get the economic structure where it needs to be. So you have to be a seeker of knowledge. You got to probably pay money to learn some things. So you got to invest in yourself, which we all should be doing. Then you got to be able to be a managing broker. You got to answer questions. You got to be able to prospect every day. You got to lead by example. You got to grow mentally. It's hard. It really is. It becomes easier the more you do it because it's just your new way of living. I would say, why do you want to be a team leader first? And then two, make, as an agent, very simple economic structure. As an agent, wanted to make a hire, let's say your first hire, an admin. 30% of what your top line is, 30% of it should go to overhead. That includes your salaries. Okay. The other, and that's all you got to worry about, because it's just you. But if you want to bring on agents too, that's going to be your cost of sales. You can only pay no more than 40% out to your broker and your agents. So now you're at 70%. And going back to the 30% overhead, you should not be spending more than 15%. That's at the very top. 15% for any type of support. For one admin, you probably want to keep that down to, I'm paying 15% for multiple people. So you just got to look at, in your market, for an assistant, for an admin, how much do they typically get paid, and then go from there. But
Antoine,
you also got to be producing at a high level.
Very, very important. 40% to agents and broker.
Yes.
And broker.
Yep.
Got it. which leaves 30% or 40% if you're good to you. Right.
And for her, if she's selling her on her own, she'll probably be closer to 30% cost of sales if she's selling on her own.
And another thing, let me mention this to it's speaking to that that person that asked the question. My word of advice would be this: the economics should not determine whether or not you go solo or you build a team. The economics should not determine that. What should determine that is your heart. For me, I'm passionate about developing talent. I'm passionate about sharing and coaching. And if I was a solo agent, I don't think I would survive emotionally, because my passion for contributing, for helping would not be fulfilled. And in the end, the economics wouldn't be what makes me happy. It's following that passion that's going to make me happy. And so we got to be very clear, not on what's the fastest way to make the most money. Because when you're on pursuit and you're chasing the most money, before you catch the most money, you're going to wake up and realize you're chasing the wrong thing. And so if you're thinking solo agent or team, when am I ready? I would sit back and I would sit down and Antoine asked the question. He says, why do you want to have a team? That's the perfect question. Why do you want to have? So Antoine, can I ask you just real quick to demonstrate, why do you want to have a team, Antoine?
The reason why Antoine wants to have a team is because I get joy in serving people and helping people. In order for me to extend my help for selfish reasons, make myself feel good that I can help other people, then I need to grow an organization that helps a multitude of people, more people than I can help individually. Yes. So that's the reason why I grow a team.
Got it. Okay, so good. So, to me, if me and you like to argue about sports, and I'm right, Jordan and Kobe are way better than LeBron. I had to get that out.
Oh man.
but I bet you probably are more interested in team sports. If you're going to be a participant in sport, you're probably more inspired by participating on a team versus participating in things like a marathon.
Yep.
Okay. So you look at marathon runners, a lot of times they're the type of people that don't like to build teams. You look at people that are building teams, you look at them and they tend to lean towards more of like teams on sports because they like that connection and whatnot. So all I'm trying to share with the listeners out there is, if you're trying to figure out where do you want to be, don't let the economics actually be at the forefront of that decision. Actually let your passion and your heart take precedence and be the priority in that decision. And then what you'll find is, no matter which decision you make, if you're bringing passion to that decision, the economics will magically appear. You do not choose it based on economics. You choose it based on passion. And then it's because you chose passion that economics actually show up for you.
Absolutely.
Antoine, thanks for doing this. We interviewed you to bring you on the show. Antoine, you told me, I watched a lot of episodes. No one really kind of explained the economic structure. Right. And hopefully we gave some people some good, solid insights today of something unique out there that you're not normally going to find. The people who really are going to run a good business will pay attention to this episode that will remain profitable. The ones that maybe go off on some, shiny object, new lead gen thing, maybe not so much, which will get probably more people to watch. This one's very important. So, Antoine, absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna do some overtime with Greg here afterwards. So, thank you so much.
Great, it was a
pleasure.
Man.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Nice connecting, buddy.
Take care.
See you, Anton. Bye. Well, that was good.
Cool guy, huh?
Cool guy.
Yeah.
I could sense the authenticity. So much. I mean, it's so funny, man. Like, when you find just good business owners, he has a very unique skill set. He has enough drive to like move forward and build something with restraint right? To do it measured.
With restraint. Yes.
With restraint, right?
Yeah.
Measured. He has enough high extroversion to get on the phones and prospect every single day.
No
right?
one, I don't know if you know, because I don't. Do you know what he did before real estate? I never asked
I don't know.
him.
That's a good question.
I know. I wish I would have asked him.
It'll be interesting.
Because that discipline that he has on the economic side and the analytical side, that discipline sound to be a little bit more polished. It's not like he just attained those
sounds
skills.
like an investment manager or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably end up going out and bringing in the accounts.
Yeah.
And then he also has the analytical side, as opposed to dealing with text messages and calls and the constant chaos of the day, to sit down and write a plan and know how to use Excel and write a spreadsheet and look at financial projections of where he needs to be, of very measured, let alone the emotional control of, man, I just got a hit of a commission. Let's go spend it.
Yeah.
Right. Especially married with kids.
Yeah.
Being able to not spend money and live below your means when you're building a family, which is the hardest time. Yeah. Trust me, I know. I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. So
when I first met him, I met him, I think he may have told you, Jeff Cohn had an event in Omaha years ago. And, and
the team building. Yeah.
Yeah. And he invited me to come in and speak. So I went in and spoke for a moment and hung out for a couple of days. And that's where I met Antoine. And we met after one of the little cocktail parties, and we just connected. It was me and him, Kevin Mills, and then he had one of his new team members at that time, and that's a team member that's still with him.
Got it.
And so he was already traveling with one of his first team members, and trying to help them also learn. And I knew but the questions that he was asking me, I knew that this guy was he cared about this team member. And so, I think what I was trying to convey to somebody, to the audience, about what should you be looking at in deciding, should I go, when's the right time to do a team, or should I go solo? It's is that where your heart is? Because you will be successful if you follow your heart. I promise you, that is the success. Most of the people that are really successful, they're actually doing something they enjoy to do, that they enjoy doing. And most people that are successful and not enjoying what they're doing, you see them stop doing what they're doing, and then they end up changing.
Great. How does someone learn to enjoy prospecting?
Well, it's not so here's the key, man. It's
a heck of a question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very easy. It's just understand that it's the right question, but it's the wrong question. See, prospecting is a doing. And so no one really enjoys any doing. So you could say, how does somebody enjoy digging ditches? That seems like there's the follow-up to that is, because obvious no one would like to dig a ditch, right? Well, wrong. If I ask you, can you meet me in Africa to dig this ditch that's only 5 feet deep, 20 feet long, is going to take us all week, but we're going to save 157 infant children because we're going to connect them to water, you're going to be happy with every dig of that shovel. You're going to be passionate about digging that ditch. But I said, can you help me dig the ditch? I got a water problem in my backyard. You're going to be like, great, kiss off. You got enough money to go hire somebody to dig that ditch for you. Why are you calling me to come dig that ditch? Right? Because there's no meaning to digging that ditch. See, the wrong question is, how do you enjoy prospecting? How do you enjoy digging a ditch? You don't enjoy either one. That's the doing. It's who you're being inside of the doing that you enjoy. And so who I'm being when I'm digging this ditch, saving 152 infants from dying every year, is I'm being a person of contribution. I'm being a person that's having an impact. That's who I'm being. The doing part, I don't give a damn about the blisters. Who cares? Those are like badge of honor, those blisters. Same thing goes with everything else. Prospecting is a doing. Who am I being? My being is this. I am committed to empowering the consumer with information that will help them make responsible financial decisions. Whether that decision is buying, selling, doing neither. I'm detached from the outcome, the result. My job is to empower the consumer with information to help them make good financial decisions. That's my beam. I got a duty to go empower lots of people today. That's my beam. Who gives a damn what the doing is, whether it's digging the ditch or whether it's prospecting or it's anything in between, it's insignificant. For everything that you can think of that you do, that you think is that you don't enjoy, somebody else in life is doing the same thing and experiencing joy. That can't exist if it was about the doing. That can only exist if it's about the being. It was an easy question. It's just a deep answer.
You might be one of the best people in the United States to answer that question. And you got the answer.
Yes.
That is a hell of an answer. Thank you, Greg. Everyone here thanks you for that one.
Yeah, that was cool. That was fun.
That was very good.
Thanks for allowing me to share that.
I allowed you, man. That was good. That was really good.
So what did you take from Antoine? I mean, if you were if somebody was in a beginning stage of doing something like him, and what's one thing you would take from him and say, you know what, I was talking with this guy Antoine, and he shared something. I thought I'd want to share it to you. Is there anything that you can think of that you would share? I'm sure there's more than, there's a few things, but
I can relate to my own experience. He's like, look, I got to be talking to people. I got to be on the phones. I have to be meeting people. I'm going to hire you, and I'm still going to go be on the phones. I'm still going to go talk to people. I'm going to still go do all these things. I think my personal takeaway through his entire story is the drumbeat or the calls or the constant commitment to making the contact, so to speak, of talking to people. And again, I know there was a question about what's a contact. I mean, everyone has different definitions. My definition is the person responded by an email, the person responded to a text, a conversation was started with a decision maker. And I'm really so much concerned with the media, whether it was the phone or something else.
Yeah, and I think that, by the way, not to interrupt because I don't want to take you off path, but I think that's becoming a more common or more acceptable
yeah, I mean, we set lots of appointments through text. So do I really discount those aren't
nope,
contacts?
Don't discount it. Don't discount it. I think it's more relevant now because of just the way the habits of the patterns of consumers.
Yeah. But I think it's very easy to hire somebody or to put your supports, commit to marketing, commit to support staff. And then, you think that for you not to continue doing all the things that maybe you didn't enjoy, making the calls and doing more calls, here's just someone that was constantly committed to constantly always bringing in business to make sure the income stream was there for the fixed costs that you're taking on. And I think if there was probably I don't know this, but it was interesting to me that through his fast 5 or 6 years, he never said that he took the drumbeat off of that. I was expecting one of the mistakes was, we stopped our commitment to prospecting. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I see that very, very common where it's you know what, maybe I can let up on this prospecting. Things are going easy. I'm going to go do all marketing to drive all the business. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's possible, but you have to be at really high levels of production to be able to do billboards and radio and television, where it ultimately ends up, I think I could probably count maybe 5 people on my hand, 10 people that do that at a high level around the United States. You're in a very small group when you're spending 20, 30, 40 grand a month on ads.
Yeah.
To keep the machine going where it's not prospecting based.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my takeaway. He never took the pulse off of the contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I would share is
and he never hired any ISAs.
Yeah.
He never hired anyone to do the calls for the agents. Mm-hmm. Did he?
Nope.
No.
It's because he's the coach. Because he's a coach. So as a coach, he's coaching, he's having them develop their own skills, he's holding them accountable and whatnot. And that's why we need ISAs in our industry. And ISA, by the way, is a position that was developed by default, not by design. It was that ISA originated as a position. That position originated because of somebody not doing what they were supposed to do. It wasn't an innovation. That's not what ISA is. And ISA was team leaders were losing so much money because they were feeding agents at such a high level when it comes to feeding them so many leads that the agents started cherry picking, falling off on follow-up, and therefore now they got a less ROI on their lead spend. So we need to get an ISA. That's why ISA exists. So, you know, what he's doing is he's recognizing the challenges within an organization that, if they appear, require an ISA, and then he's coaching to those challenges, and he's making sure that people are being held accountable and they have the skill sets to do what originally they needed to be done. Because the ISA doesn't make more money for a company because the ISA is converting at a higher level. The ISA makes money for the team because it's reducing the lossage. ISA is reduction of losses.
Yeah.
And so therefore everyone's going to say, oh yeah, but my conversion's so much higher. Well, no, it's so much higher from a much lower level than it should have been because the agents weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So when we say, oh, my conversion is really good because of the ISA, well, yes, but you have an ISA because the conversion was really bad because of the agent. So all we're doing is getting back up. We're not necessarily making that much more money off that. We're actually getting to where we're supposed to. But agents and teams right now, they're looking at the lower level and they're trying to find solutions. And in today's market, where the market's really good, it's actually probably more important to have things like ISAs, because agents get a little bit more complacent because the market's hot. Now in a cold market, when the market drops, if we have a crash, I'll just make this prediction that there'll be a lot less ISAs.
Yeah.
Because the agents are gonna be like, what? No, I need to like focus on my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I need to get focused again. And then the teams will be like, well, if you're focused again, I don't have anything for the ISA to do. And they'll start canceling out the ISAs.
I want to ask you a question on splits.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know that you can go to 100% shop, and pay a transaction fee.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you can probably go to the newer brokerages out there that's 80-20 with a cap. Or you can go with traditionally maybe something like Keller Williams, or now it's down to 70-30 with the cap.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Or you can join a team that is traditionally probably around like a 50-50 split. And some teams even charge more than that, or they're only paying the agent 40% or 30%, I've heard. Some agents, like especially the ones that are spending money on lots of marketing, are paying 10%, but they're making up in volume.
Yeah, right.
So the commission question always comes up, but it's just such a moot point because they are all over the place depending upon the person's needs and their goals and what they want in life. Here's my question to you. How do you handle the commission discussion when you go over the commission splits with agents that want to join you?
So, and you're right, this is just such a
it's never ending. It's like, what's the best CRM?
It's never ending. But if we step back for a minute and just think about business, okay? The commission conversations is one of the biggest scams in our industry, okay? Because at the end of the day, no matter what commission model you're under, there's only going to be a certain amount of money that flows to an agent. So let's just assume for a moment, well, I'm going to use a number 70-30. Okay, I'm using a number 70-30. 30 goes to, let's just say there's a company out there that they have the 70 goes to the agent and 30 goes to the company. Okay, and then for that 30, the company offers some leads, some CRM, some marketing services, and let's just say a closing coordinator and listing coordinator. Okay. Then what they got, then that person, they go start talking to 100% company. That's just a transaction fee, and just because you're under their umbrella, right? So then that person, now they get, let's say the transaction fee is equivalent to 5%. So now the agent gets 95, the brokerage gets 5%. The other model is agent gets 70, brokerage gets 30. So it seems like 95 is better than 70. Well, the difference is 95 goes to the agent, 5%, actually 95 doesn't go to the agent, 5% goes to the brokerage. But out of the 95, then that person's got to go give another 5 to the CRM. And then they got to go give another 5 to the coaching company. And then they got to give another 5 to the assistants. Next thing you know, here's what's going to happen. Mike Ferry taught us this all the time. He says, guess what? The person at the 100% company is going to only receive 70% of the commission, because 5's going to go to the brokerage, 5's going to go for the CRM, 5's going to go for the marketing, 5's going to go for the assistant. And then all of a sudden you're going to have 6 people cutting in, getting 5, 5, 5, and the agent's still left with 70. But the agent feels like they're getting 95. And so what they're fixated on is not how much they end up as net. They get fixed on how much they're paying a broker. But when they look at how much they're paying a broker versus versus the conversation, how much am I really taking home, the number's not really different. It doesn't matter if you're at a cap, company, or this company or that company or that company. I mean, just about every, these cap companies that offer, say, these nice CRMs, how many of the agents actually use it? They end up going and getting their own CRM. And so commissions need to be about what is the net, not what's going to a broker. What is the net? And real business people will end up finding out that they're probably at maximum going to only keep 70%. No matter what. Yep. I've had companies like the 100% companies, right, that are, say, trying to recruit my agents, or maybe somebody's trying to decide, do they come to me or do they go to this 100% company? And then when we actually broke down and they gave me all the expenses they're responsible for, they actually were going to net less money at a 100% company than they would net at my company.
It all comes down to, can you help the person or give the person enough volume and consistent business to make up for a lower split? And then also, who's going to shoulder the risk of the fixed cost? Does the agent want to take it on? Or
it's volume, risk. And then there's another one is freedom of time. Yeah. So it's time, money, and risk.
Well, Greg, that was a good show today. I'm glad we did that.
That was fun.
That was fun. Great. I want to thank everyone for, great guest. I want to thank you all for attending. Go to keepingitreal.com, subscribe to the show. You can like us here on the YouTube channel, on the Real Geeks Facebook page. Go put your email address into Keeping It Real. As you can see, the kids are here. It's time to go. And we'll see you in 2 more weeks. Greg, thank you. And thank you everyone here.
Good job, buddy.